Every fight taught a lesson. Every lesson built a new warrior. This is the inspired story that changed martial arts forever.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Let's just dive right in, because today's explainer is, well, it's absolutely huge. We're looking at the evolution of Bruce Lee's fighting style. And trust me, we're not just doing a surface-level breakdown of punches and kicks here. We're going to take a really deep look into the mind of a guy who went from being a scrappy street fighter in Hong Kong to literally founding an entirely new martial arts philosophy. And along the way, he completely changed how the whole world thinks about mastery, growth, and human potential. So how is a true legend created? It's so tempting to think legends are just born that way, right? Like people watched Bruce Lee move with that blinding, superhuman speed and explosive power, and they just assumed, oh, he dropped from the sky with this untouchable genius that the rest of us just don't have. But as we unpack our source material today, we are going to completely dismantle that myth of the born genius. We're going to replace it with the gritty, deliberate reality of his actual process.
A legend isn't born by copying others. A legend is created by constantly evolving. This right here, this is the absolute core theme of our explainer today. Bruce Lee literally never stopped learning, and more importantly, he never stopped adapting. Back in his early years, evolving meant having the guts to just throw away anything that didn't work in a real street fight. And honestly, in traditional martial arts circles back then, questioning centuries-old techniques was basically heresy. But Lee, he didn't care about tradition just for the sake of tradition. He was on this lifelong search for a better, more efficient way to move, think, and just live.
Section 1. The origin of a legend. Step 1. Patience. Step 2. Discipline. Step 3. Relentless practice. Long before he was this massive global icon on the silver screen, his foundation was built on these exact fundamentals. He didn't just invent a new style overnight out of thin air. In the early days, he was a super dedicated student of traditional Wing Chun under the legendary Grandmaster Ip Man. And when we talk about grueling hours, we're talking about the mind-numbing reality of drilling one single basic punch thousands and thousands of times just to build that perfect muscle memory. He really put in those quiet, totally unglamorous hours to forge an unbreakable foundation. Section 2. Breaking old limits. Rigid tradition versus fluid evolution. To actually grow, you eventually have to push past the comfortable boundaries of your early training. See, rigid tradition operates on the belief that one specific style has every single answer. But fluid evolution, that demands constantly learning, adapting, and refining. And the whole catalyst for this shift in Bruce Lee's life was this highly publicized, absolutely exhausting fight he had with Wong Jack Man back in 1964. Even though Lee won the fight, he was incredibly frustrated. He was super winded, and he felt like his classical Wing Chun was way too restrictive in a chaotic real-world brawl. In that exact moment, he realized that stubbornly sticking to a single rigid tradition was actually holding him back. So this realization completely changed his daily routine. Fluid evolution meant cross-training and experimenting to find out what actually worked in the real world. He started throwing in speed drills, meticulous footwork, heavy bag practice, agility exercises, and these incredibly complex wooden dummy combinations. But what made this totally revolutionary was where he was getting his inspiration from. He obsessively studied the fluid, bouncing footwork of heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali, and he even integrated the precise biomechanics of fencing champion Aldo Nadi to perfect his striking distance. He was literally synthesizing Western boxing, fencing, and traditional kung fu. It just goes to show how being truly open-minded can completely change your daily practice. Section 3. A philosophy of adaptability. Adaptability. It's the belief that growth comes from being open-minded, willing to improve, and not relying on a single technique. We're transitioning here from physical martial arts techniques into a much deeper mental framework. This philosophy eventually birthed his own martial art, Jeet Kune Do, which translates to the way of the intercepting fist. But Lee famously called it a style without a style. To do that, your mind basically has to become like water before your body ever could. It requires completely dropping your ego. You have to be willing to absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. The greatest fighting style evolves with experience, discipline, and wisdom. And honestly, this applies to your learning style too. It is never static. It's a living, breathing thing that has to adapt to your changing circumstances. And a perfect example of this happened in 1970, when Bruce Lee suffered a really severe weightlifting injury to his back. The doctors literally told him he might never do martial arts again. But instead of just giving up, he leaned entirely into this philosophy of evolution. While he was stuck in bed, he used all that agonizing downtime to just voraciously read philosophy, write down his theories, and further evolve his mental approach since his physical body was temporarily limited. He adapted to his limitations, and he actually came back even sharper.
Section 4. The Endless Legacy. This relentless drive to evolve created a legacy that really rippled across the entire globe. He inspired martial artists worldwide. He shattered cultural barriers by openly teaching non-Chinese students in America, which, by the way, was a massive taboo at the time. He changed the fundamental approach to fighting by proving that combining the best parts of grappling, striking, and footwork was way better than just using one single style. He basically laid the philosophical groundwork for modern mixed martial arts. I mean, Dana White, the president of the UFC, famously called Bruce Lee the absolute father of MMA. Ultimately, he revolutionized how we think about learning itself, just tearing down those old educational silos in the pursuit of pure truth and efficiency. Bruce Lee's greatest lesson wasn't to fight exactly like him. It was to keep learning, adapting, and becoming the best version of yourself. This beautifully connects his historical legacy directly to you, the learner watching this explainer right now. His martial arts journey, it's really just the most compelling metaphor we have for whatever discipline you're currently pursuing. By violently stripping away all those rigid rules of tradition, he left us with a masterclass in personal growth that literally anyone can apply.
Learn, adapt, evolve. This is the rhythm, the driving cadence, and the central motif we've been weaving throughout this entire explainer. It's the ultimate formula for constant, unbreakable progress.
How will you adapt and become your best self today? As we wrap up our analysis of this incredible source material, I want to leave you with this final thought to carry with you. How are you going to adapt today? What rigid traditions or outdated mindsets in your own life do you desperately need to break past? Think about it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep evolving, and I'll see you next time.